Well, winter is upon us, and it's time to start thinking about your emergency winter bag you keep in your vehicle. I like to use just an old duffel bag I found laying around. I don't know what it was for or how long I've had it. And it fits all the gear in there just nicely, and I can transfer it from my van to my truck to my car with no big deal. Okay, we're going to start about keeping warm. Talk about keeping warm. I like to use an old Coleman One Peak sleeping bag. I've got several of these laying around, and so I like to throw this in the bag. If you don't have a sleeping bag, blankets work just great. Shipping blankets are awesome, or just dig through your old camping gear and throw a couple sleeping bags in there to keep warm. Next thing, kind of spoiled. I use my camping or backpacking pillow, so I'm just going to throw that in there because I have several of these, and I like to be comfortable when I sleep. Also like to keep several extra coats. That's for me or a passenger. You know, you never know. Keeping warm is kind of one of the most basic essentials. Or it's another old coat. And this is stuff that I haven't used in a while. I just have laying around, so I just throw it in the bag. Kind of helps me out. Now that we've talked about keeping warm, let's talk a little bit about food. Now, if you get stranded, chances are that you're probably going to be rescued in a day and a half. Sometimes it's less. In some of the most extreme cases, like if you're in a remote piece of highway and it's going to take them a while to find you, you might be out there 2 to 3 days. So I like to carry with me at least 3 days worth of food. Now, as you know, that I'm a big Mountain House fan, and I do buy directly from their website, and I get it in bulk, so I usually get it fairly cheap because it costs me a lot of money. So I like to keep, several Mountain House products with me. Now, I've probably got, I want to say, at least 3 days worth of food in here, and if I ration it out, I could probably get another 2 days. All they are is basically add water and mix. Most of these are 2.5 servings, which means it'll feed 2 people based on a 2,000 calorie a day diet. I keep them in this nice little stuff sack here to keep everything organized in my bag, because I just don't like stuff to be floating around in there. Now, a lot of you are thinking, I don't have the money to go out and spend a bunch of Mountain House products. Which, that's not a big deal. A lot of stuff that'll work for me. In my first kit I carried, I just had about 4 or 5 packages of oatmeal, a couple protein bars. What else do I have in there? I'm trying to think. I think there was a can of soup in one of those with the flip top, so you can open it up real easy. But at least carry some food with you, because if you are going to be there a couple days, keeping your stomach full, that's a good thing. Now, you can go without food for quite a while, but you cannot go without water. I keep just, this is the backup Coleman stove I use for camping trips, and this is the other half of my Coleman cook kit. Really self-contained, it's lightweight. As you can see right there, I keep the stove in there. Also like to keep a pack of matches with me. So basically all I do is scoop up some ice and melt it down. Now, a lot of you are thinking, well, I'm not going to go out and purchase a Coleman stove. And I understand that. But keeping hydrated is a very, very important part of winter survival, or surviving being stranded in your vehicle. Now, one of the things is you could grab, like you have an old water bottle with you or something. You could shove snow and melt that down with your heater vent. Or you probably have some old cups in the car, or you can take those out and melt them down in the car. Now, I do not suggest eating raw snow, for the simple fact is you're taking the cold snow and you're putting it in your stomach, and you're getting your core temperature start to drop down. And once you get your core temperature down, the chances of hypothermia kind of bounce up just a little bit. But either way you go, you got to have water. Now, a couple of people go, well, should I keep a couple gallons of water in my trunk? Probably not. For one thing, it's going to freeze. 2, it's going to turn into a projectile when it's sliding around in the trunk if you don't have it secured. And 3, it takes a lot of energy to melt ice than it does to melt snow. Now, I personally have a small cooler with me at all times, has 4 or 5 little water bottles in them. And of course, you know, cooler in the wintertime, yeah, it keeps it basically from freezing. I just leave it in the van all the time. Now that we covered that, of course, here's the fuel cell for the coma stove. You can pick these up really cheap, and you say get about an hour plus out of them. I'll tell you what, I think the last time I counted, I've gotten about 50 meals out of one stove, believe it or not. I think that's pretty amazing. Now, let's talk a little bit of extra gear you need to carry with you. This is kind of important. Also, I keep it in the stuff sack. Like I said, I like to keep everything, you know, nice and neat so I can find it real fast. First thing, socks. Very important. Keep a pair of good, warm wool socks and just another rare pair of regular socks, and I like to double up on them. Now, why do you say socks? Well, the simple fact is, if you're stuck in a snowdrift, you're going to get out and look around and see what the hell's going on. Chances are you're probably wearing tennis shoes, dress suit shoes, or not a pair of boots. You're going to get your feet wet, which means your socks are going to get wet. Then you've got the chance of risking for frostbite, and so there's always really nice to have an extra pair of socks with you to keep yourself warm. Now, let me just put these back in the bag. Fighting a windstorm is usually when I'm filming. I keep an extra towel, you know, just to clean things up, you know, to wipe the frost or the condensation off the windshield. Extra pair of old shirts. These are just old shirts I have laying around. I just threw in the stuff sack, and the reason is keeping your core temperature up is very important. Like today, I've got 2 shirts, a leather vest, and a synthetic fiber vest, and of course my military jacket, which is made out of cotton. And I'll tell you what, it's probably 19 degrees today, and I'm very warm. So that's another important essential you want to keep with you. Of course, gloves. Gloves are very important. I carry several pair. Like I said, if you're going to get out and you're messing around, you're definitely going to be digging snow out from underneath your tires. Your gloves are going to get wet. So I always like to carry a whole bunch of extra gloves with me. You can get them in packages of like 5 or 10. They're really dirt cheap. A bunch of extra gloves, not a big deal. And I don't buy the expensive ones because if you get cold, you just double up on them. Now here's my little kind of emergency kit. Also keep in the emergency bag. We'll go through some of the items in there. If I can get the box open. I usually keep some twine or some string. You never know. It comes in very useful. Also, 2 emergency blankets for me or my passenger. Another thing is really good about these blankets. 1, they're going to keep you warm. 2, if you do have to exit your vehicle, you can make a shelter out of these, and I'm pretty sure eventually I'll put a video up of how to do that. It's really easy, believe it or not. And 3, this is a great signal device. If you're in a remote stretch of highway, 2 or 3 hours from anybody, in a white vehicle, in a snowdrift, it's kind of hard to see you. You take these out, they reflect the sunlight, and you can tie them on your antenna or across your hood or the hood of the car or something like that, and the rescuers will see this before they see your white vehicle in a white snowdrift. This brings me to another point. Always like to throw an extra hunting vest in there. Also, you can tie this on your antenna or anywhere, or wave this when the rescuers coming by. Now, this is the extreme situations where you're actually really stuck and kind of in trouble, and it's going to be hard for them to see you. Back to the emergency box. Let's get that out of the way. I like to carry toilet paper. You never know. It's going to happen. And it's also got a dual purpose. Really easy to start little fires in case you do have to abandon your vehicle. Another thing is hand sanitizer. The good thing about hand sanitizers, besides keeping yourself clean, is it makes a great fire starter. A couple other things, knife, fork, spoon set for you or your passenger to eat your Mountain House or the oatmeal or whatever food you happen to have with you at the time. I'd say wet knacks. Once again, just simply for keeping yourself clean. The other thing I like to carry is an extra pack of matches, because you never know. You might have lost a pack of matches for your stove, or they might have got wet. Also, I keep them in a dry box. Another reason, this has multiple purposes. One, it keeps all this dry. Two, you can break the lid off of it and use it as a shovel to dig stuff out, or dig your tires out if you don't have a shovel with you, or storage of water in there. I'm going to pack all this away. A light source, a good flashlight. This is a very nice flashlight. It's got the LEDs in the front. It's got a bank of LEDs on the side, so you can use it as a lantern. It's also got a bank of red flashing LEDs you can use as a signal. Put this over in the shade. You can't really see that. And it's got a magnet on it. Now, all this gear stuff's nicely in my duffel bag. Let's move this out of the way. Another important thing you should carry with you, I do 5-gallon drums because I also use this when I load and unload equipment to keep me from slipping. Rock salt. A little bag will be sufficient. About 80% of the time when you do get stuck, a little bit of rock salt will get you out in a matter of no time. Now, the reason I do carry an emergency bag with me is a simple fact. Back in probably the 80s, I got stuck in my first ice storm. And a very unpleasant experience because I was in a 74 Ford F350 and there's not much insulation in there to keep you warm. So I made a small kit up, and then I got stuck again, and it was 93. I got stuck in a snowstorm on a remote piece of highway, and that kit worked great. I was probably there for about a night and probably half a day before I actually dug myself out. So I kind of upgraded my kit a little bit more. Now, the third time I got stuck was in 2000 when we had that real bad ice storm here on a fairly remote piece of highway. And I was there probably for a night and a day, and then finally somebody found me, thank God. Now, let's just talk a little bit safety, some tips, and a couple other thoughts in my head that I like to kind of put out there to have you think about. One is, if you do get stuck, don't panic. When you start panicking, you're using energy, which you need, to get through, because you're going to get mad, you're going to try to get your vehicle unstuck, and it's not going to happen. Another thing, do not, at all costs, leave your vehicle. It's easier to find you and your vehicle than you walking along in a snowdrift or a, blizzard condition. Now, if there is a winter warning or a ice warning, just don't leave the house, but in most cases a lot of us have to, so you have no choice. So tell somebody your destination. Tell them how long you think you're going to be there, going to take you to get there, then just go ahead and add an extra half hour on it. Which brings me to cell phones. Cell phones are awesome. There's one problem, as I found out in a tornado warning we had recently this spring, that the lines jam up. A voice call won't make it through, but a text message will. Text message takes up less data than a voice message does, so I sent a message to my friend to make sure that she was okay. And all I did, all you got to do is put in, I'm stranded, or help, try to give the about location, or turn your GPS on, and if you can find the satellites, give them the GPS coordinates with your navigation program. Now, I'm going to start packing this away as I talk. I'm going to try to do some multitasking and see how that works. Another thing is, you're going to want to run if you're going to run your vehicle, make sure that you go out, and if you've been sitting for a while in a snowdrift, that you go out, check your exhaust pipes, and make sure it is clear of snow so the carbon dioxide doesn't come back in. The other thing, you want to definitely crack your windows. Which brings me to another subject, as I'm putting the stove away. I don't recommend using this in your car. It's not a good idea. but you got to do what you got to do. So if you are going to use your stove, crack the windows, make sure it's on a very secure surface when you use it. Simple fact is, you don't want this to tip over and catch your shelter on fire, or if you have a cup of boiling water on there, you don't want to spill that on your crotch. Now you're burnt and you're cold, and I'm pretty sure that's not going to be very fun at all. Now I'm going to give you a little tour of my van here in a minute and just show you some of the safety items I do have in the van that I keep with me all times. First thing is I keep just a camping light up here. It's a 4 AA battery. It's got a bunch of LEDs on there, and I just simply stuck some Velcro on the back of it, and I just stick it on my headliner of the van for a little light source. And I use this all the time when I load and unload equipment, and I probably get 4 months out of the batteries, which, to be honest with you, is not really bad at all. Second thing is I keep a mag light. For just simple fact, it's very bright and it shines a light a very great distance. And 2, this thing makes a really good defensive tool in case you get yourself in a situation. And trust me, as I know, it works out really great. I just clip that right there. And of course, I keep my cooler. Got some water in there, some juice, and I carry this with me all the time. Another good thing to have is a fire extinguisher. You want to check those about once a year to make sure it's in the green. You can get about 3 to 5 years out of your fire extinguisher depending on the conditions you're at. Now this is a little extra stuff I keep. I've got a CO2 detector, which is not activated right now because I'm conserving energy because my auxiliary battery is kind of low, and a smoke detector. But you really don't need those. I just have those because a lot of times when I'm on a long run, I like to sleep in the back of the van with Mr. Heater Buddy going there, and I'd like to wake up the next morning basically. Of course, in here, more toilet paper. Yeah, another extra set of gloves. Of course, down here I keep just the basic first aid kit, and it's in a metal container. You want to check your first aid kit about once a year to make sure nothing is expired in there, to keep those up to date. And for some reason I've got a shovel in there, and I'm not really sure why. Probably on a camping trip I went on. Now another good piece of advice is always make sure your fuel tank is full. Just the general maintenance on your vehicle, your belts, radiator fluid, all that stuff. Make sure that's taken care of. Now, all the gear I just showed you, you can pick up usually at your general camping section of any store. Will have everything you have here. If you don't want to go to these extents, and I understand that because it does get a little expensive, I use most of this stuff for camping on my on and off season, so anyway, so it really doesn't matter. But at least have a little something, some blankets, or a little bit of food with you. Now, I've been moving pretty quick, and I'm pretty sure that I've missed out on a couple things that I haven't talked about. And if I did, I really appreciate it if you put it down in that comment box right there, so other people can read it and might give me some ideas and stuff I need to carry myself. I apologize, this is a little long-winded there. I think this video ran a little bit longer than I thought it was. But I'm going to stuff all this away, and believe it or not, I'm about ready to throw my pack on, and I'm going to take a little hike out in that area right there. It's been at least, I want to say, about 3 or 4 days since I've had that chance. And I hope what I've just showed you here is kind of giving you some good ideas what you can do yourself. Well, as always, thanks for watching, and I apologize for being real long-winded. Little bonus footage for you. I'd like to show you where I've been shooting at from today. And we definitely have a little ice built up on the lake.